This lush English valley looks like a pristine paradise, but it is quietly suffering a massive ecological collapse. The numbers are stark. Eel populations have crashed by 95%, the native water vole is extinct locally, and rare dormice are hanging on by a thread. Spatial fragmentation, rather than chemical pollution, is the primary culprit here, creating invisible walls that break the ecosystem apart. In the river, 27 man-made weirs and culverts block migratory fish from reaching their spawning grounds, trapping them behind impassable concrete barriers. Above ground, the patchwork of agricultural fields creates similar blockades. A single gap in a hedgerow can completely trap the hazel dormouse, a strictly tree-dwelling species that refuses to touch the ground. By severing these ancient natural highways, human infrastructure has turned these native animals into paralyzed sitting ducks, entirely cut off from the food and habitats they need to survive. Because the native wildlife is pinned down, highly adaptable invasive species have easily infiltrated the valley to exploit the vacuum. Take the American mink. Originally imported and bred in the UK for the commercial fur trade, escapees from these farms quickly established a breeding population in the upper reaches of the river. Mink are notorious surplus killers, meaning they kill far more than they actually eat. Thanks to their small size, they hunted native water voles right inside their underground burrows, wiping them out entirely by the 1980s. Now add the American signal crayfish, a triple threat against trapped riverfish. They burrow 2 meters deep, collapsing riverbanks, devour trout and salmon eggs from gravel nests, and carry a plague that is entirely fatal to native crayfish. If trapped native species are being slaughtered by mobile invaders, how do local conservationists save the ecosystem without manually relocating the animals themselves? The solution here is a rewiring strategy. Humans act as infrastructure engineers, carefully repairing these physical, biological corridors. In the water, this means modifying those 27 blockages. Teams are bypassing concrete weirs and installing specialized eel ladders to restore open migration routes for the fish. On land, landowners are gapping up the missing links in the hedges, actively planting new hazel and bramble to weave unbroken, elevated green corridors for the dormice to travel safely. And they are even repairing the sky. 11 species of bats use the linear river as an echolocation superhighway, but harsh artificial town lights blind them, creating an invisible, impassable wall in the air. To fix this, planners implement a dark corridor strategy. By swapping to warm-spectrum LEDs and snapping the lights strictly downward, they instantly reopen the black flight path above. Human engineering can reset the physical circuit board, but bringing the system fully back online requires Meacher to run its own software. Once the paths are clear, the natural engineers return. Beavers are expanding into the valley, constructing wetlands that create massive booms in the local insect populations. This beaver-created insect boom directly feeds the exact bat populations now safely utilizing those restored dark corridors. But the ultimate proof of a fully reconnected network is the return of the native otter, a dominant apex predator that requires up to 50 kilometers of unbroken territory to survive. Otter populations were severely crippled in the 1950s by harsh agricultural pesticides. Now that those chemicals are banned and the river is unified, they are back on patrol. They provide a critical biological service immediately. Otters actively hunt and eat the invasive signal crayfish, keeping their numbers manageable and protecting the next generation of salmon eggs. More importantly, they practice competitive exclusion. A 12-kilogram otter physically dominates and ejects the much smaller 1.5-kilogram mink from the prime hunting grounds. The otter acts as a natural biological shield. By permanently locking out the invasive mink, they create the predator-free safe zone required to finally bring the native water vole back to the river. The ecosystem is finally integrated. The sky, the land, and the water are communicating. The highways are open. But this success creates friction. A functioning ecosystem does not respect human property lines, and apex predators are highly opportunistic hunters. Because wild fish stocks are still recovering, those returning otters occasionally bypass the river entirely, breaking into suburban residential gardens to hunt ornamental pondfish like goldfish. Conservationists also use counterintuitive methods like veteranization. Instead of safely removing dead or dying trees from public spaces, They deliberately damage and hollow them out to create essential day roosts for the bats. Real ecological restoration thrives in the messy reality of overlapping territories, where human and wild spaces are inextricably linked. Locals have to make active compromises to maintain this biological shield. Instead of harming or removing the legally protected otters, homeowners install heavy-duty steel mesh to protect their garden ponds. They also have to respect the trap paradox. Recreational trapping of those destructive signal crayfish is strictly forbidden. If an angler pulls out a large, dominant male crayfish, they remove the very thing eating the juveniles. This instantly triggers a massive, uncontrollable population boom among the smaller offspring. True conservation means taking responsibility for the invisible connections between species. By sharing our infrastructure and living with the friction, we allow nature the space to become its own greatest defender.